Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the Noon News from Montana's news leader.
Good afternoon. We're so glad you could join us on this Thursday. I'm Aja Goare. 1 year ago today, former FBI Director Robert Mueller was appointed as special counsel to look into possible collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia. The investigation is still ongoing today, and President Trump insists the witch hunt needs to end. CBS's Aja Zhang has the latest.
1 year ago today, the Department of Justice tapped Robert Mueller to be a special counsel to investigate possible Trump campaign ties with Russia. At the time, President Trump said a thorough investigation would exonerate him and that there was no collusion. Today, he's calling it the greatest witch hunt in American history and still denies any collusion.
Mueller should now bring this to a close. It's been a year. He's gotten 1.4 million documents. He's interviewed 28 witnesses, and he has nothing.
To date, Mueller has secured guilty pleas from 4 former Trump campaign members: Michael Flynn, Rick Gates, George Papadopoulos, and Alex van der Zwaan, but none on charges of colluding with Russia. More than a dozen others have been indicted, including former campaign chairman Paul Manafort.
One person special counsel Mueller has not interviewed is President Trump, whose lawyers say that's not likely to happen.
I mean, we're going to be the laughingstock of lawyers if we let him testify.
Gotcha.
But you can be sure we're only going to do that if we feel there's a way to shorten this thing.
But the investigation doesn't appear to be ending anytime soon. Just last week, Mueller subpoenaed the social media strategist working for longtime Trump advisor Roger Stone. Aja Zhang, CBS News, the White House.
Jason Sullivan, Roger Stone's social media strategist, worked for Stone during the 2016 presidential election. Mueller delivered 2 subpoenas, including a request for documents and other information. Here in Montana, a former Billings man is in custody, suspected of robbing and killing an Anaconda woman. 52-year-old Troy Johnson was arrested in Butte Wednesday after a manhunt. Authorities believe he beat his neighbor, 64-year-old Shelley Schaefer, to death during a robbery in her home sometime late Monday or early Tuesday. When police located Johnson Wednesday, he reportedly lunged at officers with a knife and was then subdued with a taser. Johnson faces a charge of deliberate homicide in Anaconda, Deer Lodge County, and possible charges in Butte as well. A motorcycle pursuit that began in Livingston ends in Billings without an arrest. The 2 suspects wanted for burglary led deputies and troopers to an alley in Billings between North 24th Street and North 25th Street late last night. The suspects ditched their motorcycle and fled on foot. Billings police responded to the scene to help set up a perimeter around a commercial yard, but officers discovered the suspects had escaped. 2 women were stopped by a Border Patrol agent at a Havre convenience store because they weren't speaking English. The interaction was recorded by one of the women.
So can you tell us in the video, please, why you asked us for our IDs, please?
Ma'am, the reason I asked you for your ID is because I came in here and I saw that you guys are speaking Spanish, which is very unheard of up here.
Okay.
The women, who are U.S. citizens, were asked for their identification early Wednesday morning. Anna Suda says she paid for her items, gave the agent her ID, and then began this recording. The agent told the women his actions were not racially motivated, but Suda says she's still in shock.
Sounds good.
My family was asking me, because my family is in Texas, and they were asking me, how is in Montana about this? I say, never have a problem before. I say Montana is perfect because I love the people here. The people is so nice. It's nicer than another states, and I can't believe this happened.
U.S. Customs and Border Protection told MTN News in a statement, quote, Border Patrol agents have the authority to question individuals, make arrests, and take and consider evidence. Big Sky High School will not allow students to display the Confederate flag on school grounds. Principal Natalie Yeager made the decision after asking several students to remove articles of clothing and other items that display the flag. Yeager says the flag interrupts the learning environment for students. She says some students even reported the flag causes fear and anxiety at school. Yeager says this policy is an effort to make the school a safer place.
You know, sometimes the disruption of the school environment is subjective. That's our discretion as administrators to decide. It's very clear to me that our students are saying this causes me fear and anxiety in my school environment, and it's very important that students feel safe and comfortable at school.
For a first offense, students will receive a warning, and if the student continues to display the flag, they could be suspended. We now know the names of the Lame Deer girls killed in a crash on Monday. The Bighorn County coroner identified the victims as 12-year-old Lola Pickett and 8-year-old Mona Eaglestar. The two girls were killed when the 15-year-old driver of a GMC Yukon hit a culvert on U.S. Highway 212 and rolled the vehicle. Alcohol is a suspected factor in the crash. Lewis and Clark County leaders are asking the U.S. government to expand a grant for flood mitigation projects in the Helena Valley. The county previously received a FEMA grant to work on redirecting stormwater into the gravel pit at the Helena Trap Club. They're now asking for more than $1 million in additional funds to replace culverts and regrade ditches along Sierra Road. The county would have to provide a 25% match, which would come from the $100 assessment fee on properties in a flood mitigation district that commissioners created last year. Missoula County commissioners are preparing to approve a disaster declaration at their meeting tonight. This as they request additional state and federal help to deal with the flooding in Missoula and Seeley Lake. Last month, commissioners enacted an emergency declaration giving county disaster officials the authorization to take emergency action and to begin tracking their expenses. The declaration considered tonight will open the door for the county to receive state assistance with flood costs, but could eventually tap into federal emergency help as well. We turn now to the weather scene with Ed McIntosh, and we had a bit of rain last night. And how's that going to affect us in the future?
Yeah, we're already looking over to the western portion of the state, Asia, and that's where we saw most of the heavier rain reports in central and western Montana, the same areas where we already have flood watches into effect. And along with that, some gusty winds around Lincoln blew down a very large pine tree there, and 79-mile-per-hour gusts reported around Havre. Into the eastern plains, it was more about hail. 1-inch hail being reported around Fort Union, between Sidney up towards Williston, North Dakota, Baker, and around Ekalaka. Not only hail, but also winds up to 72 miles an hour. And tonight, we're watching eastern Montana and the Dakotas for the possibility of strong to severe storms. We'll talk more about how that will affect the evening when we come back in a few minutes.
Thank you, Ed. Hikers beware. The hills around the Missoula Valley are seeing a spike in snake activity. MTN's Russ Thomas has some safety tips.
Let's talk about snakes, baby. In particular, the sudden jump in snake sightings on the hillsides surrounding the Missoula Valley. The weather is bringing them out.
As temperatures start to warm up, they're wandering further and further away. They are active, looking for food, warming up, and this is the time of year you end up seeing them on our trail systems.
So what exactly is out there? There are 3 primary snakes habitating Mount Jumbo and Waterworks Hill: gardener snakes, rubber boas, and the aggressive bull snakes.
The bull snake is a rattlesnake mimic. Their patterns look very similar. Their head shape is different. And they are more aggressive. They'll make a hissing sound, they'll shake their tail, they'll tend to be a rattlesnake, and then they'll actually try to attack you.
The good news is that none of these snakes, including the bull snake, are venomous. Valiant says that there have been no rattlesnake sightings in recent years in the Mount Jumbo area, but there is a known rattlesnake den located between Marshall Canyon and Bonner Milltown. He says they could certainly settle onto the Mount Jumbo hillside.
There's no reason that they couldn't live on the habitats that the North Hills and Jumbo provide. They're great snake habitat.
Most reports of snake sightings come from trail runners who can more easily sneak up on snakes. Valiant adds that it's easier to find snakes in the early season as they first become active.
They're actually just concentrated in certain areas, and normally that's near an old stump or a rocky area. Later in the summer in July, they're spread out all across the hillside, so we don't end up having as many sightings.
If you should encounter a snake, it's wise to keep your distance. The hillsides are a wildlife protected area, an area where snakes are allowed to thrive. In Missoula, Russ Thomas, MTN News.
Thanks, Russ, for that report. Someone should get him a music contract. Still ahead on the noon news, New Jersey authorities are on the scene of what they call a horrific bus crash. Details when we come back. But first, Ed has our weather forecast. Stay with us.
You're watching MTN News with Aja Goare, Storm Tracker weather with Ed McIntosh, and farm and ranch news from the Northern Egg Network. This is the noon news on Q2, Montana's news leader.